Welcome to this stories. The night hung thick with unvoiced feelings, a fragile silence shattered by the first sharp word that slipped from her mouth. It began like a whisper in the dark, with teasing words that cut deeper than they seemed, playful jabs hiding a tension that crackled between them. We found ourselves at a gathering, the sort that once felt warm and inviting, back when I believed my marriage was genuine, something to cherish. But somewhere along the way, I found myself watching my own life from a distance, and tonight, it felt as if I was witnessing everything unfold through a veil, longing to step back in, but feeling the weight of something unspoken holding me at bay. My wife was radiant, her laughter dancing in the air, drawing in the admiration of those who had always overlooked me. Her lover, the one I had been aware of for some time, lingered just a breath away, his smirk a constant reminder of the unspoken tension whenever she spoke. I had endured so much, far beyond what anyone should, yet I wasn't naive. Her gaze lingered on him, a spark of something unspoken, a secret dance of emotions that felt both thrilling and wrong. I caught the way her voice turned tender when she spoke to him, how her whole presence transformed into something vibrant and teasing, a spark that had faded when she was with me. I had ignored the signs for far too long, and she must have seen my quietness as an invitation, because tonight, she laid it all bare. Tonight, she craved the thrill of being seen, the warmth of a few drinks igniting her spirit. Their words danced dangerously close to a precipice, igniting a thrill that felt both exhilarating and forbidden. They whispered about love, about the thrill of wanting someone who felt just out of reach. My wife scoffed, swirling the wine in her glass, her eyes flickering to mine with a mix of challenge and something unspoken. It's hard to ignore how some men carry themselves, as if the world owes them something. She pondered, her voice heavy with the warmth of the drink, as if they believed that a ring could bind a heart to a debt. It's heartbreaking, truly. The room held its breath, her friends exchanging glances that spoke of secrets and unspoken desires. I knew I should have turned away. I should have just walked away. Yet, a tension coiled within me. A thread tugged with a desperate longing. I placed my drink down, my heart racing with the weight of unspoken words. Is that really how you see love's promise? A fleeting exchange? Mason, her secret love, let out a soft, yearning sound. A sound caught in the tension of unspoken feelings. Please, just listen. Don't let it weigh you down. Yet, my heart whispered his name. I held my breath, my gaze fixed on her, yearning for her answer. Her smile was a quiet promise, lingering as she leaned closer on the couch, the air thick with unspoken words. Some men seem to think they are entitled to more than what they offer. The weight of the unspoken hung heavy in the air. The group fell silent, a tension hanging heavy, as if the very air had changed between them. And then she crossed the line, with all the defiance of a heart that dared to love without fear of the fallout. Her hand met my cheek in a moment of raw emotion, the room falling into a stunned silence. The unexpected gesture left behind an air of tension, a shift in the atmosphere that could not be ignored. It was a lingering touch, charged with unspoken words. It was something deeper, a spark that ignited a longing they both knew they shouldn't feel. It was intended to break me, to show my weakness. Silence enveloped the room. I stood frozen, heart racing. In that fleeting instant, all I could sense was the pounding of my heart, the chilling truth creeping into my very soul. I felt a pang in my chest, but I wasn't shocked. Not quite. Somewhere, buried within my heart, I had longed for this moment to arrive. She leaned back, a storm of emotions hidden behind her gaze. Her lips curled just enough to challenge me, a silent invitation that sent my heart racing. The group shared uneasy laughter, their hearts racing as they grappled with the intensity of what had just unfolded. And then Mason, the man she had been yearning for, the one who believed he had triumphed in an unvoiced game, chose to intensify the drama. Wow, he murmured, a teasing smile playing on his lips, as if he understood the weight of unspoken desires. That was so mortifying, you know? Are you really going to let this moment slip away, just sitting there, feeling the weight of what could be? I turned my head slowly, my gaze lingering on him, a spark of something unspoken igniting between us. He reveled in this moment, savoring my perceived surrender. In that moment, I realized he felt safe with me, never seeing me as a danger to his heart. Not to her. Not for him. Not for anyone else to know. Everything was on the brink of transformation. I let out a breath, my shoulders relaxing as a rush of unspoken feelings washed over me. The sting of her slap lingered in my heart, a bittersweet reminder of the lesson that would forever haunt me. She sought to diminish me, to make my presence feel insignificant. And he believed he could tease me and slip away without a scratch. He believed he could escape the weight of his choices. I nearly lost myself in that moment. I stood, taking a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing down on us both. His expression faltered slightly, a hesitation breaking through his confidence. The wife who had just struck me, who had reveled in belittling me, now appeared fragile, her confidence wavering. For the first time in ages, my heart felt light, free from the weight of anger. I felt a rush of emotions, a storm brewing beneath my calm exterior, ready to reveal the truth of who I really was to them both. The stillness that hung in the air after her slap felt more profound than the sting on my cheek. A few hesitant laughs lingered in the air, fragile attempts by the guests to mask the tension of what had just unfolded. Yet, an unspoken tension lingered in the air. They stood frozen, hearts racing, unsure of how to process the moment that felt both thrilling and wrong. Something forbidden. A moment that whispered of boundaries blurred. I stood there, my cheeks still tingling, but my thoughts had shifted away from the sting of the slap. My thoughts lingered on the man across from me, a spark of something unspoken hanging in the air. Mason, my heart races at the mere thought of you. His secret, the one who had settled in, taking more than he should have from me. The one who had smiled while I crumbled, turning my pain into their amusement. Are you really going to let this happen without a fight? I watched him lean back into the couch, an air of triumph surrounding him, as if he had already claimed victory over my heart. As if defeat had already claimed my heart. That was the moment he crossed the line. I had turned a blind eye to so much. I had ignored the signs for too long, choosing to believe in the illusion of what once was. But this moment was undeniable, a quiet shift that signaled something had changed forever. This was out in the open. Intentional. A display meant to reveal a hidden truth about my heart. I couldn't let it go unchallenged. I inhaled deeply, each movement deliberate as I drew my shoulders back, a quiet tension hanging in the air. The air crackled with unspoken words. All eyes were on me, hearts racing, as the moment hung heavy in the air, charged with unspoken tension. Mason was waiting, his heart racing with a mix of hope and longing. Yet, he felt no tremor in his heart. Not just yet. The way he stood spoke volumes. His hand lingered on my wife's thigh, a forbidden prize he reveled in. A smile broke through, a fleeting moment of warmth in the shadows. Just a whisper, just enough to stir doubt in his heart. And then, I whispered my truth. What do you think made her slap me, Mason? His heart raced at the unexpected question. I felt a rush of something deeper, something I couldn't quite name. I wasn't raising my voice. I was merely inquiring. He let out a bitter laugh. But in that fleeting moment, I caught a glimpse of uncertainty in his smirk. I have no idea, honestly. Maybe she's just weary of, I interrupted him. Because she believes she can escape the consequences. The words lingered in the air, thick with unspoken tension, as if a blade had been laid bare before us. His lips parted just enough, and I felt the electric tension as understanding flickered in his gaze. Everything felt wrong, like a dream slipping through his fingers. But you, I whispered, my heart racing. You underestimated the weight of this moment. The confidence in his expression faded, leaving behind only the gravity of what had transpired. They laughed at me. I found this quite amusing. I tilted my head, a rush of unspoken feelings swirling within me. Do you really see me as fragile? Mason moved, a flicker of longing in his eyes. Listen, I can't believe you think you can just waltz into my home, touch her like that, and belittle me as if I don't exist. Unease hung in the air, a tension that whispered of unspoken desires. Even my wife, once so self-assured and bold in her humiliation, now looked at me with a flicker of doubt in her eyes. Because this was a part of me she had long since buried away. I stepped closer, heart racing, gentle yet intense. Unhurried. Just think it through. Mason's heart raced. That was everything I ever wanted to feel. A smile tugged at my lips. Stand with me. His eyes flickered with uncertainty, emotions warring beneath the surface. What is happening? Rise. Lifted. The lightness in my voice only deepened the ache between us. It was never meant to be a challenge. It was a whisper of danger. It was a longing, and he felt it deep within his soul. The room hung in a heavy silence, thick with unspoken words. Someone shifted nervously in their seat, a spark of longing in the air. Another breath caught in the silence. Yet silence hung heavy in the air. Mason glanced around, his heart racing, desperate for an escape from the tension that hung in the air. But there was nothing. Just moments before, he had been so daring, so ready to embrace the thrill of being in charge. What happens now? Now he was questioning every heartbeat, every stolen glance. He paused, a flicker of something unspoken in his eyes, then let out a hollow laugh that echoed with unacknowledged longing. Come on, we shouldn't be here like this. This isn't. I moved even closer, my heart racing as I stood just inches away from him. Now he had no choice but to meet my gaze. His throat tightened, a rush of emotions swirling within him. Rise up, I whispered again, my voice barely a breath, yet unwavering. His gaze held a secret, a longing that danced just out of reach. By standing, he was surrendering to the inevitable, embracing the thrill of what lay ahead. If he didn't, he would be revealing to everyone here, even my wife, that he was nothing but empty words, bound by longing. He felt it deep within him. It was inevitable. And so did she, her heart racing with the thrill of the unspoken. For the first time that night, my wife seemed truly anxious. Her fingers tightened around the wine glass, and I could sense the turmoil brewing within her thoughts. She had longed for this moment, shaming me, parading her new love, a thrill tinged with secrecy. But she never considered what would unfold if I chose to break free from the role she had cast me in. Mason exhaled unsteadily, his heart racing as he rose to his feet, each movement heavy with unspoken longing. Perfect. I allowed the silence to linger, heavy with unspoken words. Let the gravity of this fleeting moment seep deep into his soul. Then I leaned in, my breath barely a whisper, meant only for his ears. Whisper it once more. His brows knitted together, a storm brewing behind his eyes. What do you mean? Whisper to me those words again. I held my voice steady, though my heart raced beneath the surface. My expression was a mask, hiding the storm of feelings beneath. You called it shameful that I accepted the sting of your hand. Whisper it once more. His jaw tensed. I didn't blink. Go on, I said, since you were so comfortable running your mouth a minute ago. He licked his lips, forcing another weak laugh. But the confidence was gone. My voice dropped lower just for him. Or is it the weight of your own actions settling in now? In that moment, the dynamic between us shifted. His shoulders tensed, his fingers flexing slightly at his sides. His hesitation was palpable, a silent battle waging within him. Should he resist, strike out, or attempt to protect his pride in front of the woman he had taken for himself? Yet, deep down, I understood the consequences of his actions. He felt the same way. The glisten at his hairline revealed everything unspoken. And so, after a long, painful moment, he did nothing. He held back. His silence hung between them, heavy and charged. He stood there, a quiet storm of emotions, defeated without a single blow. I held on to that moment, savoring the closeness, before reluctantly leaning back, allowing him the air he needed. I whispered that thought to myself. With a heavy heart, I finally looked away. I slipped by my wife, through the shocked faces of her friends, navigating the heavy silence that enveloped us all. And then I walked away, my heart heavy with unspoken words. Not because it was expected of me, not because I had lost my way. Yet, in that moment, I felt like I had lost everything. Would she ever understand the depth of what slipped through her fingers? In the chilling silence of that room, would she realize that she had just risked the one thing she never believed she could part with? Us. The cold night air wrapped around me, a sharp contrast to the warmth of the party I left behind, its distant laughter echoing like a bittersweet memory. I took my time. I didn't need to. I knew that behind those walls, my absence had left a vacuum, one that my wife, her lover, and every single person in that room was struggling to fill. They had expected me to take the slap and shrink. They had expected me to slink away, humiliated and small. Instead, I had left them in silence, my departure heavier than any counterattack I could have delivered in that moment. But I couldn't let it end like this. Not just yet. I drove home slowly, my heart racing as I clutched the steering wheel tightly. My heart was calm, yet my thoughts raced wildly. That moment lingered, haunting and beautiful. The sting of her hand against my cheek lingered, the silence in the room heavy with unspoken words, and Mason's confidence crumbled the moment I approached him, a fragile moment suspended in time. Foolish heart. He believed he was beyond reach. I believed he had moved on without me. He believed he had triumphed. I nearly crossed that line. With him. So close. As I parked in the driveway, I lingered in the car, my gaze fixed on the house I had created, a bittersweet reminder of what could never be. Our secret haven. A place that once held a heartbeat. Now it felt like an empty vessel, longing for something it could never have. A fragile sanctuary I had clung to, while she quietly unraveled it from beneath me. Never again. I climbed out, pushed open the front door, and stepped into the quiet. The house was still cold. I could feel the weight of what I had been ignoring for too long pressing in on me. But not for much longer. I didn't pack a bag. Not yet. I wasn't leaving. She was. I didn't have to wait long. Less than an hour after I got home, the sound of tires screeching into the driveway sent my heart racing. The rapid echo of heels against the pavement, a heartbeat in the night. The soft jingle of keys echoed in the quiet, a sound that stirred something deep within, a reminder of moments stolen and whispers shared in the shadows. Heart racing as fingers tremble against the cold metal, a moment suspended in time. Then it swung open, revealing a world they dared not enter. There she stood, a fleeting glimpse of something I knew I shouldn't want. My secret love. Her cheeks burned with a secret longing. A swirl of anger intertwined with a longing that felt both thrilling and wrong. Something she dared not speak of just yet. Never regret. Not just yet, but so very close. Did you really just walk away? She stepped inside, her voice cutting through the air, revealing more than she meant to show. Are you really going to throw a tantrum over this? I held my breath, caught in the moment, unable to find the words. My gaze lingered on her, a moment suspended in time. Longed. She crossed her arms, a storm of emotions swirling within her. Oh, come on, you're being so dramatic. I struck you. What does it matter? You had it coming. A rush of tension gripped me. Yet, I kept it hidden deep inside. Did I really? Her laughter was a sharp, defiant sound, echoing with unspoken longing. Oh, please, don't pretend to be the one hurt here. Is it okay? You believe you're untouchable. Yet you. Where is he, the one I can't stop thinking about? I interrupted. Her eyes fluttered, a moment suspended in time. What do you mean? Where's that secret someone of yours? My voice trembled with unspoken longing. Unwavering. He didn't take you home? A spark ignited in her gaze. Longing. He chose to remain, against all odds. She whispered, her body trembling with unspoken longing. Why does it matter to you? A fleeting smile graced my lips. Gently. Because I made him feel insignificant tonight. I whispered. And now he's sitting there, battling the truth that lingers in the air, desperately trying to convince himself it was all just a fleeting moment. Her expression contorted with longing. You're lost in a fantasy. Is it really me? I tilted my head, a rush of unspoken feelings swirling within me. Whisper it to me. Did he run after you? Did he risk it all for you? Or was he just left there, nursing his pain while you rushed back to my side? She parted her lips, a secret trembling on the edge of her words. It's over. I could see it now, the uncertainty creeping into her very soul. Behind her fierce exterior, a heart trembled with longing. She had hoped Mason would meet her unspoken desires. And he never did. She abandoned a throne for the laughter of a fool. And in that instant, when the air thickened with tension, I realized I had shattered their expectations of who I was meant to be. Mason stood there, heart racing, feeling the weight of unspoken words between them. Foolish heart. Her gaze slipped from mine, fingers clawing into her skin, a silent plea hanging in the air. The silence lingered, heavy with unspoken words. Let her linger in it. Then I leaned in just a little closer. Do you feel the thrill of it all now? Her gaze shot to mine, her lips sealing in a silent plea. Isn't that the reason you chose this path, deep down? I pressed on. That slap was never really meant for me. It was always about you. It's about showing them what you can be, even if it feels like a secret longing. You longed to prove that you held the reins, even if it meant dancing on the edge of what was right. She let out a soft laugh, her head shaking slightly, a mix of disbelief and longing in her eyes. "Oh, just let me breathe. But you really don't, do you?" I cut in, my voice barely above a whisper. "Because in this moment, you're right here with me. Within these walls. Not with him, never with him. Stay with me. Yet, here you are, uninvited and impossible to resist." Her face turned ghostly white. She felt the truth in my words, a spark igniting between us. Yet we both understood the unspoken boundaries that kept us apart. Despite her confident facade, she had fled. "Come back to me, please." Because hidden beneath the bravado, the arrogance, and the desperate need for approval lies something more fragile. Her longing for my approval lingered in the air, a silent plea that tugged at my heart. I allowed the truth to wash over me. Let her embrace the warmth that wraps around her, igniting a fire deep within. With a heavy sigh, I shook my head, feeling the weight of unspoken words between us. "You're no longer my burden," I whispered at last. Her brows knitted together, a storm of unspoken feelings brewing beneath the surface. "What is happening?" I brushed by her, my heart racing as I headed to the bedroom. "Grab your things," I whispered. "Take what you desire, but know it comes with a price. You're walking away." Her gaze lingered on me, electric and unspoken. Then she released a quick, bitter laugh that echoed with unspoken longing. "Oh, is that so? And where am I meant to run to now?" I let out a soft sigh. "Seek out Mason." Her expression clouded with unspoken longing. You can't just walk away like this." "I do." I pull away, my heart racing as I turn back to her. "Because I finally recognize the truth of you. And I can't do this anymore." She lingered in silence, her breath hitching in her chest. And for the first time, I glimpsed a truth hidden beneath the fury. Longing. Because she felt it deep within her heart. This felt different from all the others. This was more than a fleeting quarrel, a scar too deep to heal with mere words of regret. This was the end. Her heart raced as the final curtain fell. And she had lost him. I took a step back, my heart racing as I pointed toward the bedroom. "Hurry, gather your things." She stood still, heart racing, caught in a moment that felt both electric and wrong. She stood there, trembling, her lip quivering as if words were trapped inside her, yearning to break free. Yet, she held back. Because she understood words hung heavy in the air, unspoken and aching. As she slipped away into the spare room, each step felt like a whispered goodbye, heavy with an unspoken longing that caught in my throat. In the stillness that lingered, the house felt alive, caught in a delicate pause, a tender hush after the tempest of unspoken feelings. The thrill of victory lingered on my lips, bittersweet and electric, a clarity that both exhilarated and terrified me. In that fleeting moment, everything shifted. The one who had once held the reins of our love story now stood vulnerable, confronting the weight of her own decisions. Later that evening, as the sky deepened into a tender twilight, I sat alone in the living room, feeling the weight of unspoken desires in the air. The air crackled with unspoken feelings, a bittersweet release washing over me. In letting go of the burden of being overlooked, I felt a spark of something precious return, my own dignity, fiercely reclaimed. I lingered in the shadows of that night, each fleeting moment replaying in my mind, every whisper and every laugh now muted by the weight of my own determination. Earlier, I caught a glimpse of Mason, hunched in a shadowed corner, his head bowed low, embodying the weight of his shame like a heavy cloak. He forced a laugh when I pressed for the truth, but his eyes revealed a painful truth. He was merely a shadow, a hollow echo of the respect he believed he had earned by being with her. The sting of his own hesitation pierced through him, and I sensed it was just a heartbeat away from unraveling his bravado completely. It wasn't only Mason who felt the weight of their choices. My wife, once so vibrant and assured, now lingered in a heavy silence, each moment thick with unspoken regret. In those fleeting moments when her eyes met mine, a spark ignited, a silent acknowledgement of the price she paid for her decisions. Her shoulders drooped, a silent testament to the burden she carried. As she packed her bag, each hesitant movement felt heavy, as if every item held the echoes of unspoken dreams and fleeting moments. Later, I discovered her by the window, bathed in the soft glow of streetlights, a silhouette of longing and regret. For the first time, she appeared fragile, No longer the commanding figure who had once belittled me in public, but a soul laid bare by the weight of her choices. The silence hung heavy, thick with unvoiced confessions and the haunting whispers of what once was. "Do you understand the weight of your actions?" she finally whispered, her voice quivering with a blend of longing and heartache. I watched her, my heart torn between the sweetness of the moment and the ache of what could never be. I came to understand that I had been holding onto a dream that was never meant to be. I whispered, each word heavy with unspoken longing. "You made your decision, and now every step carries its weight." Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears as she turned away, longing to forget what had been. The truth hung heavy in the air, a silent shift that had taken place long before, not through loud clashes, but through the soft, aching decay of a love that once burned bright. Mason's quiet unraveling, the sudden stop of his taunts, my defiance against the role they thought I would always play, it all brought us to this moment. In that delicate instant, I realized it was more than just shame or a longing for retribution. It was a journey of rediscovery, a delicate dance of emotions, as I pieced together the fragments of myself that had been hidden away, lost in the shadows of unvoiced sacrifices and unrecognized worth. Though I doubted we could ever be whole again, I felt a fierce resolve rise within me. I would never let anyone, especially those who professed love, make me feel small again. As the night deepened, shadows danced around us, and the world outside faded into a distant hum. I turned away from her, haunted by the echoes of our shattered promises. I stepped into the cool air, each step a whisper of newfound strength, a heart racing with the thrill of liberation, yet haunted by the shadows of what once was. The stillness in the house had transformed into something almost tender. It felt like a breath of fresh air, a soft surrender to a struggle I hadn't known I was in until I let go. She lingered by the window, the soft glow of streetlights painting her features in a bittersweet light. She seemed diminished, not in size but in spirit, like someone who has just discovered they're standing at the precipice, with nowhere to turn. Her bag lingered beside her, a silent witness to the unspoken tension between them. She had packed her bags, yet her heart remained anchored, unwilling to leave. Neither had I, and yet here we are, caught in this moment that feels both exhilarating and wrong. For so long, we merely shared the same air, the unspoken tension of what we had become pressing against the walls, a secret longing that lingered in the shadows. "You're really doing this?" she asked finally, her voice quieter than I'd ever heard it. I exhaled slowly, running a hand through my hair. "No, I admit it. You did this." She flinched like I had struck her. I wasn't cruel in saying it. It wasn't anger or spite or the need to get one last dig in. It was just the truth. She turned her gaze to the street, as if hoping to find an escape, a different narrative where she wasn't the one to blame. Yet, there was no way out of this longing. It was the first time I laid eyes on it, and my heart raced with a mix of excitement and trepidation. Longing, genuine, raw, and unrestrained, not due to being discovered or her lover's shortcomings, but because she had believed I would forever remain by her side. A fragile promise, a man who endures every hurt, every betrayal, lingering in the shadows, hoping she might one day transform. She thought my quiet endurance was a sign of fragility, and now she was awakening to her mistake, but it was already too late. "You don't have to do this," she pleaded once more, her voice trembling with emotion. A soft laugh escaped my lips, and I shook my head, feeling a rush of emotions I dared not explore. "That's exactly the point. I do against all odds. For the first time, this is all for me. I'm doing this for myself, even if it feels wrong." Her lips trembled, a silent plea hanging in the air. She understood. Silence hung heavy between them, a bittersweet weight that spoke volumes of what could never be. For so long, I had allowed her to shape the boundaries of our love. I carried the burden of her joy, watched as love slipped through my fingers, forgave each hurt, each retreat, each silent moment of disregard. In that instant, when her hand struck my cheek before the eyes of all, she turned our world into a stage, leaving me no choice but to respond. And now she was facing the heart-wrenching aftermath of that decision. She stayed, despite the storm of emotions swirling between us. She was staying, even as the shadows of my heart whispered of vengeance. She was walking away, and it felt like my heart was unraveling for the first time. I had let her go, and without my support, she was left to navigate the fragile ground beneath her, trembling and alone. Her breath caught in her throat as our eyes met once more. "Is there?" she faltered, her breath hitching in her throat. "Can we find a way to mend this?" It was almost heartbreaking how fragile her voice sounded now. I gazed at her, my heart racing as I weighed her words. Was there ever a moment that felt too close, too electric to ignore? I could have hidden the truth. If only she had fought for us, shown me she was willing to change, maybe we could have found a way to be together. Yet, something stirred within me tonight. Some things are destined to remain broken. Some connections are too fragile to mend. I finally revealed my heart's secret to her. "I don't think you want to mend this," I whispered, my heart racing. "Maybe you can't bear the thought of what it means to lose me." Her breath caught in her throat. And there it was, a moment suspended in time, charged with unspoken desires. The truth neither of us could escape. She had loved me for a long time. She had loved the comfort of me, the security, the knowledge that no matter how little she gave, I would always be there. But now I wasn't. I turned, walking toward the door. When I reached it, I stopped, my hand resting on the frame. "It's time for you to leave," I said softly, my voice steady. A moment of stillness followed, heavy with the weight of all that had been lost. Then I heard the rustle of her bag as she stood. I didn't turn around. I heard her footsteps approach the door, pausing for just a heartbeat, as if she hoped I might call out, beg her to stay, to offer one final moment together. I couldn't. And then, in an instant, everything changed. She had slipped away, leaving an ache that lingered in the silence. It was as if the walls held their breath, aching in her absence. There's an undeniable pull between us, a spark that ignites in the quiet moments. It feels wrong, yet so right, as if the world around us fades away, leaving just the two of us in a fragile bubble of longing. Every glance, every touch, is laced with unspoken words, a yearning that both excites and terrifies. We dance on the edge of something beautiful and dangerous, knowing that this connection is both a gift and a risk. Nothing to hope for, only emptiness. After years of feeling trapped, I finally inhaled deeply and tasted the sweetness of freedom. I wasn't grieving. I felt a heaviness in my chest, as if joy was a distant memory I dared not touch. I was merely drifting through life, and for the first time, it felt like everything I ever wanted was within reach, yet so tantalizingly out of grasp. I wandered through the dimly lit house, switching off the lights, allowing the shadows to embrace me as the night deepened. I felt a void, a silence where something once thrived. Regret never crossed my mind. In that fleeting moment, everything became clear. This was the moment I found myself again. To leave everything behind, heart racing, eyes averted. As I lingered in the doorway of the bedroom, a space that had shed its scars, I exhaled softly, feeling the weight of unspoken feelings linger in the air. Let's leave the battles behind us. I won't waste another moment trying to earn the approval of someone who never truly valued me. I slipped under the covers, the bed feeling like a sanctuary meant just for me, and let my eyelids flutter shut. Sleep wrapped around me like a secret, tender and elusive. After what felt like an eternity, at last, I had triumphed. Dear listeners, your whispers mean the world to us. Share your secrets in the comments. And if you feel the spark, like, share, and subscribe to keep this connection alive.